Morning, folks. I'll keep this really brief and then hand over to Ian. My role is at the Office of Sport as Director of Operations and Programs. So the portfolio includes Duke of Edinburgh Award. It also includes our administration of all of our grant programs. I've only been in the role 6 months, so I'm still finding my feet. It also includes regulation of combat sports and motorsports and operations of our centres. So if you want to talk about money, we can, because I'm also covering off on that area as well. I spoke to Darren about a month ago, and he very quickly connected the dots in terms of the potential benefit of this program, an established program, particularly around the volunteering component, which Ian will talk to soon. But yeah, for me, that's the real opportunity here today, is partnerships. We're moving into a space where we want to talk about investment, but we also want to talk about partnerships. So I might just quickly introduce the team, if that's okay. We've got Christian and Glenn on the left and right, our field officers, connecting with hundreds of community groups and schools. We have over 14,000 students aged 14 to 22-ish that are involved in this program, so that gives you an idea of the reach. In the middle is Mr. Mark Roach. Mark's our partnerships coordinator, so you may have seen very recently our first partnership with Rugby New South Wales. They've partnered with the Duke of Edinburgh program, so that gives you an idea of what we're trying to achieve. But I might just hand you over to Ian, who's our Executive Officer who manages the program. Thanks for your time.
Yep.
Cheers.
Thanks very much, Nathan. Just first up, just to make the connection, Duke of Ed is actually a program that's operated under licence in Australia, and it's the Office of Sport that are the licensed operating authority for New South Wales. So that is really the connection. And Office of Sport sees a lot of value in the Duke of Ed because it actually aligns with a lot of the strategic objectives. As Nathan alluded to, there's partnerships and it's also participation. So there's a very, very strong alliance that we see as the Office of Sport with Duke of Ed. Just out of interest, just a quick show of hands across the room, how many people are actually aware or know of the Duke of Ed in Australia? That's encouraging. How many of you actually are aware of it being used within your sport, either at club or association? Okay, that's really good because that is a gap we really want to address. So hopefully we can talk to that through this presentation. So the agenda, we're going to be talking at just a quick overview of Duke of Ed. I'm not going to spend too much time on that. We can follow up on that later. Benefits to sport, benefits to the participants. We're going to look at some operating models and maybe talk about some of the partnership opportunities and those that actually exist at the moment. And there'll be a Q&A session at the end, and I'm aware that we've got tea after that as well, so we might even take that through to make sure that you actually track on time. So I will ask you to keep questions to the end, because hopefully I will address some of those things that are niggling away as we go through the presentation, and all will be revealed by the time we get to that point. Very simply, the Duke of Ed, really it's referred to as, was in the very olden days referred to as a scheme, is more often referred to as a program. It's really more a framework. It is not something we're going to come along and give you and say, this will work for you in your organisation, in your sport. It's a framework that overlays what you may already have in place, partly or fully. Where we see the real connection through sport is it's open to young people aged between 14 and 25. Anyone doing their Duke of Ed Award has to undertake a minimum of 4 different sections identified as voluntary service, physical recreational sport, skills, there's a venturous journey and there's a gold residential project. I'm going to focus on the first 3 as part of this presentation, and we can move on to the other items a little bit later. But they are the main areas that we can actually focus on in this particular conversation. Within the award, there's 3 levels as well. There's bronze, silver, gold. And at each of those levels, the participants are required to achieve a certain amount of purposeful effort. They have to commit a certain amount of time. In the case of bronze, it is 3 months at 1 hour per section per week. And that goes across to the voluntary service and the skills. Think how powerful that could be within your sport, that you've probably got people playing the sport at the moment. We think that's a given. How about if you could actually tap into those people playing sport and align with the voluntary component? They are looking to use their hour a week somewhere. Majority of them are doing things like op shops or in animal shelters. How can we attract them to sport and keep them in the club and actually contribute to the health of the club? The other areas is skills. There's a lot of skills that happen within clubs that aren't tapped into. Umpiring, officiating, anything that has a qualification. through the particular sport that you're in, that can be used as a skill as well. Again, it's an hour a week that we can be tapping into. The only thing I would say as a caveat at this stage is nothing that people do at the Duke of Ed level can be paid. We can allow for honorariums, where if you've got people officiating and you're covering their transport costs, that can be covered, but it can't be in the case of umpiring and reffing, where they are actually getting an hourly wage or signed up with a refereeing or umpire association. So at bronze, it's a minimum of 3 months, and within each section, a participant can enter at any point. The youngest age is 14, silver 15, gold 16. Again, there's some areas that we can actually change that a little bit, but I won't for the purposes of this presentation. We'll just stick with those numbers. So obviously we've got bronze. I talked about 13 weeks of dedicated effort. If someone's coming in at silver, that's 26 weeks, and at gold, that's 52 weeks. So that actually works across sport, where we can actually have people doing their summer and winter sports as well through the Duke of Ed. So it's actually getting them moving around, keeping them interested in sport as well. In New South Wales, in the last financial year, just over 14,000 young people signed up to do the Duke of Ed Award. And that's just a breakdown at the different categories. We always get that entry point at bronze, and we sort of get that drop off going through to gold. Overlaying that is based on last year. This is, hopefully you can just about see that. That is the statistical information of which sports those people were using for their Duke of Ed. So we're able to tie into that information. Unfortunately, we can't get that granular around their volunteering, but we know that this is the sports that people are actually involved with. Not really surprising, soccer and netball are right up there at the top, but there are some other sports all the way through that people are actually using. And of course, that list keeps going and going and going, but that's all I could realistically fit on the slide to give you a feel of what's going on. So there is the potential. Benefits to sport. So obviously if we've got participants doing the award, they're playing the sport. They have to play sport. That's one of their requirements. So we're getting people out there healthy. It's also achieving some government objectives from that point of view. Volunteering in sport, that theme again, how can we get those people that are actually playing the sport with a club or association to give their time to the sport? So there's a potential benefit if we actually tap into it. If you think about how that can actually work, your volunteering programs, how you can actually access those young people and use them productively within your sport. We're developing skills in sport as well. So again, where do you need help? Well, I know very much in my conversations with netball, there's some very strong programs out in the northern suburbs where through the award, they're actually using young people not only to play, they're umpiring, and they're also coaching. So they're actually tapping into those people and using them to make that a really strong association from within their membership. We get retention of volunteers. By default, there's that commitment, particularly those people that want to go on with their award from a bronze to a silver to a gold. They have to have that commitment. So if they can get them engaged in the club, they will start going on that journey. So, and you're going to get them for longer and longer periods of time. And there's partnerships with the community. So within all of the, mostly association and club level, schools where the award operates, they are crying out for opportunities for their young people. These young people that say, I don't know what I'm going to do for my volunteering. I don't know what I'm going to do for my skills. There's an opportunity for sport to actually connect with the schools that are running the award and build up that relationship, build up those partnerships to have that pathway and have more people young people coming through sport and doing their award through sport. The framework there, and it's in your handout as well, there's a page there that just very broadly outlines some of the things that people can be doing. And this is based on sports that are actually using the award at the moment. So it's based on the likes of surf life saving, PCYC, rugby, netball. What are they doing? So we've just got it very generic. We're referring to things like refereeing, equipment maintenance. It's really whatever you want to do. What are the jobs that need doing at a sporting level? I'm pretty sure that we can find a way of mapping that to the award. Even the basic stuff where you have duty rosters in some sports where the tidy up, the canteen, or that can actually be built into this as well. So they're the things that you need to think about in terms of what are the opportunities within your sport to engage people at that volunteering level. Skills, I think, is a bit more is a bit more obvious, but I think there's a great deal of opportunity at the sporting level. I know from my own benefit, and I wasn't even involved with the award at the time, but I managed a soccer team, and I cracked it. At the end of every game, there was tape everywhere, there was water bottles. These kids just walked away, thinking that this stuff just miraculously tied itself up. So with my team that I had at the end of the game, one of the things they had to do is they put in half an hour of actually doing a tidy up. And what we found is there was a lot more buy-in at that stage from those kids. They thought twice about chucking their tape on the floor. They were giving something to the club. It was a very, very small step, but it actually made a difference to what actually happened at that club, and made life a lot easier for the other volunteers that normally had that big chore at the end of the day of just tidying up everything. We're hopefully going to be able to play a video now which talks about and Nathan alluded to it, is one of the partnerships that has started with Rugby Union through their Positive Rugby Foundation. Oops. We're not sure if there's going to be sound, so just see how we go with this. So the background is that we've been talking with Positive Rugby Foundation for a period of time, and that's with the national body. So with the structure that we've got in Australia, there's an Australian national body, and then we've got the state bodies. So we've had engagement from a national perspective talking with rugby, and then we've got involved, and Mark more recently has really been working with the guys, and we've ramped up to this big promotion. What rugby is doing is that they're working with schools in the Far West. They're also working in at various schools through Sydney Metro as well, where they're using rugby to really empower young people that are playing. No chance on the What we can do is we'll share this video. It's a 2-minute video, and it actually just talks about the actual benefits of the sport, why Rugby Union came along with that. I'm disappointed we can't share that as part of this, but we're not going to be held up with technical challenges. Oh, hang on. I think we've got a potential solution. With part of this as well, and I'll talk to this a little bit later on as well, it sort of aligns with what the Office of Sport is hoping to do with other sport as they engage with the award. We actually see through that partnerships that we want to look at the promotional channels, how we can actually use that to actually engage with the young people, engage through sporting organisations as well, and communicate that information through to clubs. We'll see if we can go. We'll just ask for a bit of hush and see if we can actually get with that. And the person speaking is the CEO of the national body.
Sport has many of the features that help the award obtain its positive impact. It's done over time. It's done in a team. In most cases, but certainly in rugby's case, people typically do it over several years of a drop-in, drop-out arrangement. And what we feel is that sport also has more than just playing. It builds other characteristics and qualities of the young person. It encourages them to volunteer and do acquire additional skills apart from the game itself. And so mapping across those 4 requirements of the award through what rugby requires, what we're seeing is that a young person undertaking rugby, over time, they're really completing a majority part of the Duke of Ed Award. So this funneling it through or mapping it through the Duke of Ed will give those young people an added piece of recognition and also an informal education qualification. So what we're talking about is it is accrediting their extracurricular activities, and that accreditation has international recognition.
The health and wellbeing is a massive focus for the Positive Rugby Foundation. That's what rugby is about, the value set that it gives. And the fact that we've been able to partner with such an illustrious organisation as the Duke of Edinburgh just adds to that whole premise of what we're trying to create, which is really giving people really great opportunities through rugby to achieve their goals, not only within rugby, but the beauty of rugby is all the other opportunity that it creates outside of rugby, through the friendships that often you create through rugby.
Benefits to participants. You're probably aware of this, so many hands went up when I asked if you're aware of the award. And it's it's things that you would expect from the award. What does the participant get out of it, not just through sport, but generally in life? And the reason that they actually participate in the award is we hope that it helps develop them. You see growth, and when we hear people speaking at their ceremonies, when they get to the gold ceremony, we hear their stories of personal development, of growth. It's developing those life skills. Sure, they're probably going to get to those things at some stage in their life. This is a framework that allows them to really accelerate them and puts them in a really good place when they're finishing school normally, but it does go beyond, to really take on the next challenge in their life as well. It's all that social inclusion, awareness of the environment, awareness of their community, the fact that they can probably get, there's recognition through tertiary in terms of additional bonus points, ATAR points. So it might mean that they can achieve the goal that they want to achieve in terms of that next level of education. We know a lot of employers really value the award when they see it on the resume, because they know it says something about that character, that commitment, that purposeful effort. We know that they've done their 13, 26, 52 weeks. They haven't given up. They've got up in the morning or in the afternoon. That, you know, when their mates were going off having barbecues and parties and things like that, they still pushed on and made sure that they've actually achieved the award. So we've got those benefits there. And some of the reflections we had at Gold Ceremony, I'll just give you a couple of seconds to read that. This was just self-reflections from young people, just finished their award, and I picked out 3 of people that were actually talking about the sport that they were involved with. And in this relationship, I think it's really important that sport can be a part of these people's success, being the mentors. That's also a benefit that you'll get. It's the participants get benefit, but you as individuals, if you're going to contribute to this, it's that warm feeling knowing that you've got people writing this at the end of their journey and you've been part of that journey for them. We will try another video and see how this works. This is from a participant perspective. This is Liam, who used cricket, and he was giving back to cricket, and this was put together.
Organisations rely on volunteers, and a young person getting involved with a junior club or with a local team gets a bit of a sense of what it's like to get involved and help out with the local community. So you'll learn stuff about yourself. You'll learn about your ability to manage other people, your ability to organise groups. So in terms of learning about yourself as a young person, it's a really good thing to do. But even at club level, even at the grassroots level, being involved in your community is a wonderful way to give back. And in the case of students doing the awards, it's a wonderful way to tick off your hours for your Duke's Award as well.
I love associating myself with people that I normally wouldn't, mainly people that are outside of my age group, both slightly older people, parents, and mainly the younger children that I associate myself with. It's just different to reconnect with how you used to be when you were a kid, and seeing the children going through what I went through when I was playing cricket and helping guide them through that is something that's really satisfying within yourself as well. The challenges that they face is the same things that you did when you were playing, and it's great to help them through that with all the coaching that's been invested in me with my parents and through some of these other volunteers. I thought it'd be nice to give back a little bit especially so I'm doing my Duke of Ed Award through this. It's a great chance to do something I love, which is cricket, and help out the community as well.
Thank you. I want to acknowledge Miguel, who's in the audience today. He was actually, he filmed that as part of the Good to Give Back initiative. So thanks very much for that, Miguel. And we're always really happy to share that particular story. There's a number of different operating models. There's 3 that I'm going to talk through today in terms of how it can actually work, because I'm sure that that's probably what you want to really think about. What does it mean for the club? The very, very typical one, I'd say, is where we've got, now I'm going to refer to things like award centres and things like that in your handout on the back page. There is, for future reference, just a quick terminology, just so you can make sense of it a little bit later. But typically we have an award centre which is like a school. Probably 80% of the award is delivered through schools. It doesn't have to be that way, but that's the way it's probably traditionally delivered at the moment, certainly in New South Wales, where we have a contact and a coordinator and award leaders. So the participant actually registers through that award centre. They then have to go and decide where they're going to go and do their different activities. And that's where I think the sports clubs fit in. That they can, we know that they're probably playing their sport through the sports club. We want them to be looking at other opportunities as well, like that netball example I mentioned earlier, where they're doing officiating and they're doing coaching as well. The requirement at this level, at the sports club level, and I know that this is probably very key to you in terms of what does it mean to you, what time have you got to allocate to this if you're really time poor. Really, all that's been asked at this level is that you are providing mentoring and assessment. When a young person comes along, they will say, please will you be my assessor? I want to achieve these goals over my 13-week, 26-week, 52-week journey. And really, the role there of the assessor is to be checking in, to mentor them as well, or it can be a separate person, but check in with them, make sure they're doing what they're achieving. You do not have to spend every hour that they're spending with them. It's really that checking in to make sure that they are guided, that they're mentored on their journey. You're going to have some people that might require a little bit more mentoring, others that are just really out there and they're totally in control of their life and they're actually and they're able to deliver. So that's really what we see that as a very typical low impact on an organisation. The only thing I would put on a club is you've got to have a good volunteer program, a good skills program if you want to go through officiating. You know, from my experience as well, the amount of times that clubs call out saying, we're desperate for volunteers, and we heard that through Office of Sport when we went out and did the regional activation. Everyone wants volunteers, yet you go along to these places and everyone's standing around because no one has got a good plan in place in terms of what those people are going to do. So it's really important, if you're going to take this on, just think about what are the tasks that these people can do. That's that little bit of work that needs to be done up front, I would suggest. That makes it successful for the club, it makes it engaging for the individual, and you're going to encourage more people to come through as well if you can think about how that plan actually looks. So again, if you go back to the handout I gave you where you've got the framework there, there's some things that you might want to think about in there. Where does your sport fit in with that? What are the things that are happening at association level, at higher level, or even at club level where people can actually help? And one of the things we're actually finding is that with intergenerational change is that the young people coming through can actually add so much value to a club because of the engagement they've got through social media, through the technology. They're more connected probably than our ageing volunteer force in there. So there's actually a lot that they could bring to the club if they were just given the opportunity and someone gave them a voice. Model 2 is where the actual sports club acted as the award centre. So basically the administration would happen that level and you've got the participants coming all the way through. I will touch on that after the Model 3. So that's where you want to take it all on yourself. And there's reasons why big clubs might want to do that, have that engagement. Whilst the award is voluntary, you have that opportunity to shape. So you could be suggesting, if you had participants coming through and you were looking to build up your coaching, your umpiring, your general volunteer base, you say, yes, you can sign up through us. Here's your pathway for volunteering. Here's the suggested pathway for your skills. Here's the suggested pathway for your sport. And so that way you're actually getting that buy-in through the club. And then model 3 is where if it happens, say, at an association level where you've got an overarching administration. And there's a couple of organisations I am talking with at the moment that actually quite like this model and thinking it through. So the high level administration is done there in terms of the sign-offs, the initial registration of participants, and the final sign-off of participants is done at that. And then the sports club operates exactly like I talked about in model 1. So again, low impact at the club level, higher impact up here where it could be part of someone's role, half a day a week or something like that, where they're doing the admin depending on the numbers that are going through. And in the case of, we've got some organisations that do combinations of that. Surf Life Saving, very big with Duke of Ed. They either operate it at that level, but we also do have some clubs that do this as well, where they have got some very strong people at particular clubs, that, certainly through the Central Coast, where they've just got those guys really committed to their particular sport, and they've really engaged, and they've taken young people all the way through. They've developed at that level an adventurous journey, which is where you go. Typically, your journeying can take on different forms, but you're basically away for a certain number of days, certain number of nights, where you're under canvas or in cabin or in it's not motelling or anything like that. It's getting people used to more challenging environments that they wouldn't otherwise be exposed to, and there'll be an element of journeying. Certainly in the case of Surf Life Saving, I think they do a lot of water related stuff, where they're actually out on kayaks and the likes as well. That component, and I've written there, can be independently outsourced. So that can be actually happening. And there's a number of organisations out there that actually offer that particular service. And that's why I've left it out of the particular conversation. It does not need to be embedded within whatever programs you're doing for the Duke of Ed. You would probably have a partnership and an arrangement with a provider or a number of providers where those participants would actually undertake that component of the award. So that tends to be an elephant in the room when we're talking to people that aren't out and out journeyers. They're going, how are we ever going to deal with that? Don't even worry about it. It doesn't have to be managed within the sport, but it can be if you think it works with your particular sport. And the rugby union one that we looked at is probably a combination of all of that. So they actually, they're using schools for some of their program and doing the mentoring there. But at the academy down at Daceyville, they're actually using the award, and they're operating as an award centre there to bring their academy participants through. So they're using a mixture. So there isn't one model that fits all. It can be actually adapted. So they're the different models that we can actually, and again, that's in your handout as well if you just want as a point of reference. Some of the partnerships, conscious of time, I'm going to wrap up. All these sports up there have a relationship with Duke of Ed in some shape, form or another at the moment. They've either signed up to a program that's called the Duke for Sport that was mentioned in the video, or they've registered as a registered activity provider. I see that we've got PCYC here as well. That's managed through, that could be a lot stronger. There's, for the number of PCYCs, there's a real opportunity. The lady we work with, PCYC, works really, really hard, and she also recognises that opportunity as well. But they have there is engagement through PCYC. They're operating as an award unit. So we've got them in various different capacities, but all these sports are actually committed. If you look at your handout, not necessarily now, but later, at the second back page, there's actually statements from the CEOs of a lot of those organisations, similar to the statement that we had from Andrew Hoare when he talked on that rugby union video, in terms of what the Duke of Ed means to them and their sport. So there's some things that you like to consider as well. And we are looking to really develop that relationship and get more sports on this slide. getting that commitment, getting that engagement and that support for young people, that opportunity to use the award to take people through. Any questions? I'm 5 minutes over, but I did start 5 minutes late, so.
Well, you say that there's no, we're not allowed to pay these participants. If they were to seek certification for certain things like coaching awards or licences for various...
If they've got to pay for licences and things like that, that's fine. And if you paid that, that's fine. It can't be paid labour. But yes, it's a really good question. But yes, you want them to go on those journeys of accreditation. You want them to have those other achievements as well. And again, this is where the award works, that concept of a framework. There's a chance that they're doing it, a lot of these things in their sport already. And this is why Surf Life and Saving is so strong on it. They know they're doing bronze medallions and these other things. They're just saying, if we can lay Duke of Ed over the top, we're actually overlaying something that is recognised. It operates in 130 countries. So it's something that's got national and international credibility. So it's really adding extra value to those individuals as well. So yeah, I'm sure that you've all got your own different accreditations that you're doing at various levels. Coaching level 1, coaching level 2. They're the sort of things that can actually tie in with it. And I think as more technologies are coming in, starting to use things like drones in some sport, things like that, as you're starting to get more accreditation, maybe through media channels, marketing, using social media. There's some other accreditation through TAFE courses and the like as well. That can all be recognised.
Just with the amount of time the students need to spend on the various awards, is that set out strictly per week, or can it be done in blocks if the sport is not occurring on a regular basis?
Yeah, okay. So the actual commitment is 1 hour a week, 2 hours a fortnight, or 4 hours in a 28-day period. And that gets plugged into everything's logged through an online record book, and there's an algorithm that calculates things through. It could be that for some sports, and I see this working really well, that they would do the 4 hours every 28 days because that's meaningful. We're aware, particularly in the regions, getting to and from a location is actually more time consuming than the time they're spending doing it. So, and it could be within your rostering of volunteering, it's more value for you having someone there for 4 hours doing a morning session or an afternoon session, or they may do the setup, be there marshalling through the day or helping with the marshalling, and then do the bump out at the end of the day if they're taking down nets. So that might work as well.
The reason I ask is some administrators from personal experience have said, no, you have to do 1 hour a week.
No, you have to be consistent. You can't do 1 hour one week and then go, I'm going to do 2 hours the next week, and then I'm going to have a break, and then I'm going to try and make that up with 4. So you can't just put the whole thing together. The idea is that purposeful effort. So you make that commitment, and then through the algorithm, it makes sure that there's that commitment. That's what we want to see developed in the young people, not doing it when it suits them, understanding that they have to adapt to suit what the requirement is. And if that's what you require through your programs, then that's fine. You're at liberty to do that. What I'll do now is, because we've got so many of us here, I would say we'll break, if that's okay, so that we don't eat into too much more of your time. But Christian, Glenn, Mark and myself are around if you've got any other particular questions that you'd like to follow up. I really thank you very much for the time. Thank you, Darren. Thank you very much, Jess, for the opportunity to speak. Really, I've just sown a seed, I hope, at this stage. More than happy to take the conversation to the next level once you've had a chance just to digest some of this, how it would work. We work in partnerships, we work in relationships. If it's not myself, it will certainly be Mark that will actually work through with you, would look at how this could actually work within your sport. So don't feel shy about it. If you think it might work with you, doesn't matter if you tease us a little bit, we're more than happy to talk to you, because it is one of our objectives. We're government, we've got performance indicators. We want to help sport. So if you think that there's an opportunity, we're more than happy to invest in that and explore those avenues. And what we're also doing in that is that we will invest in certain respects in developing the collateral with you as well that you could actually use. So it's how do we get that messaging across? Because that's what we're learning. It's one thing saying this is there, but how do we actually communicate that all the way down to grassroots level, so that the people that are there on a Saturday or Sunday running the sport on the day actually understand what it means. And if someone rocks up saying, I'm doing my Duke of Ed, please can I do it with you, that we're helping you communicate how that can actually be done so the whole thing is successful all the way through. By signing up to that, being part of that partnership, the one thing you do get is you can buy into the branding as well. So you can co-brand with the Duke of Ed thing, and that's certainly what rugby in particular saw as being very powerful. Thanks very much again for your time. We can break, but we're here for a chat.